Hello there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. At the end of Andor Season 1, we are left with a feeling of not victory, but certainty. We know that Cassian Andor is fully committed to the path of liberation and rebellion. We know that Lieutenant Rael is no longer going to have him killed. We know that the rebels of Ferrix will join the wider rebellion and take the fight back to the Empire. And all of this certainty, well, it comes at the expense of one character. In conflict and war, when people start getting hit in the face by funeral bricks, there are always going to be losers, and in this case, the loser is ISB Supervisor Dedra Meero, the officer in charge of the Ferrix garrison. Heads will roll for the riot that occurred on this planet, and even she won't be spared the wrath of the Emperor. It's hard to ignore Dedra Meero, portrayed by the very talented Denise Go. She gives off an intensity and awkwardness that makes us uncomfortable, yet unable to look away at the screen. Like a nicer version of Ellen DeGeneres, she commands respect when she walks into the room. Her competence doesn't come from a false place. It doesn't come from arrogance either. Instead, it comes from this obsession over her work. She loves her job, and she's also very good at her job. And so she's comfortable because she's in the place where she should be. She belongs here. Dedra Meero is also not the type of woman who is proud to excel in a man's world. She probably doesn't even notice that she's surrounded by dudes. She simply just can't take her eyes off the prize. This single-minded fixation she has over her job, her ignorance of office politics, makes me wonder if she's on the spectrum. And now, as the new trailers for Andor Season 2 begin to hit the internet, it's very clear that things are not going well for her in the second season. We see Dedra Meero in one scene distraught. In another scene, she's wielding a pistol in Lieutenant Rael's office, but as far as I can tell, she doesn't seem like someone who's in charge of an ISB raid. She doesn't seem like she's sanctioned to do this at all. Instead, she looks like she's gone rogue. Today, I want to theorize what has happened Dedra Meero in the second season of Andor. I love doing deep dives and analysis of Andor because, Tony Gilroy and his team of writers have put a heavy focus on story and character development. This actually provides a wealth of detail for us to ignore. Almost everything that we see on screen, all the character action, the dialogue, even like the details in the set design are designed with a purpose, with intent. It's not just there to look good. Most of these things are functional or will move the plot forward. Dedra Meero starts off the show as a relatively green ISB supervisor. She has recently come from the enforcement wing of the department. It's an interesting place for Dedra Meero to come from. It's a little bit unexpected because the enforcement wing is really just a paramilitary group that has security and muscle for the ISB. Generally, ISB investigations and internal affairs use these guys and gals the most. This is not an easy organization to belong to, right? This is going to be a physical and action-oriented group. These guys are meant to fight in combat. Now, what's interesting about the ISB enforcement branch is that unlike the rest of the ISB, the members of this unit aren't necessarily part of Compnor, which is the political party that supports Emperor Palpatine. Remember, ISB is a civilian political entity. It is not a military intelligence agency. It is kind of like the Gestapo. It's Palpatine's own personal intelligence agency. Sometimes ISB enforcement would even hire individuals who weren't loyal to the New Order at all. This allowed the ISB to really broaden the talent pool from which they hired, including very talented but unsavory individuals who were efficient at getting rid of people or dealing with the criminal underground. Remember, the ISB were the ones who oftentimes oversaw Imperial bounties. We're not exactly sure what Dedra Meero's role in ISB enforcement was. I imagine she wasn't a grunt or a soldier, and if she was, she wasn't there for long. I think she was in an officer position where she led probably small units. And eventually she probably started working with the investigation department where she caught the eye of a senior leader like Major Leo Partagas. He's basically in charge of the ISB board. You see, the Empire isn't really the meritocracy that it promises to be. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of graft, there's just crazy psychopaths killing people too in the Imperial Academy system, which is not good. But it's clear that Dedra Meero's capabilities did help propel her into a very powerful position as a supervisor within the ISB's investigation branch. Mind you, this is not an entry-level job. She was given responsibility to oversee all ISB investigations in 2 entire sectors, which covers like hundreds of inhabited worlds and thousands of other minor settlements. She's basically like a district attorney. This is a very impressive job that has political ramifications. She's not a beat cop. She's not just a detective. She's at that level where the cases she's going over are going to have profound implications not just for her sector, but potentially for the entire galaxy. Now, the big problem with the ISB is that it is heavily influenced by that Sith culture that makes success as dangerous as failure. While Dedra Meero's ambitions are driven by a natural curiosity and love for investigation and problem solving, many of her peers have been groomed to pursue power as an end in itself. And if you take a look at someone like Supervisor Blevin, it's clear that some individuals have already gotten too comfortable in their positions and were now trying their best to prevent others from rising ahead of them. And so don't for 1 second be fooled by the pristine white walls of the ISB headquarters on Coruscant. This is indeed a pit of vipers. When these guys run out of enemies to hunt, they'll start hunting each other. Major Leo Partagas was in charge of this ISB board of supervisors, and he's well chosen for the position. He sees right through the individuals beneath his command and is unimpressed by most of these supervisors. Like a Sith Lord, he's basically looking over a crop of Darksiders, knowing that only one of them is worthy to be his apprentice. Many of Partagas' supervisors are quite dull. The product of the Imperial Academy's pay-to-play scheme or the loyalty-obsessed Copnor's gatekeeping. Partagas never really expected much out of individuals who fall into this category, like Legret. Other supervisors like Blevin were disappointing to Partagas because they had a lot of potential, but were too afraid to take the political risks necessary to get to the next level. Dedra Meero, however, has none of this fear. I mean, her focus is legendary. It made her the ideal pupil, but of course, as the teacher's favorite, she also put herself in the crosshair of her peers. When Dedra makes the initial connection between the theft of a Starpath unit at the Steer Guard Naval Yard and the incident on Ferrix, it seems only natural for her to access more information about what happened on Ferrix. The only problem was Steer Guard was in her jurisdiction, but Ferrix, well, that is one of the sectors that Supervisor Blevin controls. Dedra Meero doesn't really understand the animalistic nature of the supervisors in the ISB investigation branch. I mean, they jealously guard all the information coming out of their sectors that they're assigned to. They treat these sectors like personal territory, and they see any person who comes into this territory as an enemy that they must defeat. This allows ISB supervisors to specialize and understand the dynamics in their own region, which is good, but when you have cross-sector crime like a galaxy-wide rebellion, then you're going to run into problems. It's kind of like before the Federal Bureau of Investigations was created, and you would have criminals basically just go from one state to another state, and they'd be able to outrun state police authorities who can't really go to another state that's outside of their jurisdiction. Now, Blevin immediately makes things difficult for Dedra Meero. He even accuses his colleague of trying to advance her own career by taking control of his sector. Of course, Major Partagas knows better than that, and ends up giving the young officer not only access to Blevin's data, but she also receives his entire sector. Even though momentum is now on Dedra Meero's side for this investigation, she also doesn't realize the dangerous politics at play, or at least she doesn't fully realize it. You see, Supervisor Blevin will now be watching her closely, and the second she makes a mistake, that's when he'll pounce and hopefully retake his old sector back. And that is exactly the position that Dedra Meero finds herself in at the end of Andor Season 1. She was right about her theory, connecting all of those individual rebel actions into one larger movement, but when she's given charge of Ferrix, her handling of the funeral of Marva Andor is a complete disaster. You see, Dedra was once again far too focused on the main target of her mission, Cassian Andor. We saw the funeral of Marva Andor as an opportunity to lure Cassian back home to Ferrix, and so she actually grants the local mourners permission to gather in public for the funeral. The funeral procession quickly grows out of control and becomes much larger than what the initial permit granted. I think Dedra was naive to believe that the people of Ferrix would obey her. No, Dedra was right to focus on capturing Cassian Andor. He's the most important part of this very confusing puzzle, but she got tunnel vision, and she ignored what was happening in the peripherals, including a very dangerous situation, all that tension on Ferrix. I mean, she made a huge mistake by not reading the background information, all of the lore around the planet, right? With a massive crowd of sad and angry people now facing down her Imperial Army troopers, Dedra Meero unknowingly navigated herself into what we call a lose-lose situation. If the Empire does nothing, the mourners win, because they have defied the orders of the Empire and gotten away with it. If the Empire does something, they'll most likely end up killing, or at least hurting, a lot of innocent Imperial citizens, which of course leads to more radicalization and unrest amongst the local populace. In hindsight, allowing this funeral to happen at all was the mistake. You should never allow large groups of people to gather in your town if you are some kind of tyrannical force trying to impose your will on them. It's just a stupid thing to do. Also, if you think about it, Cassian Andor was going to return to Ferrix whether there was a funeral or not. It didn't really matter, and he didn't really attend the funeral anyway, publicly. If anything, the funeral stretched the resources of the Empire very thin on the planet and provided a distraction for Cassian to exploit. And to make matters worse, I mean, not only is Dedra Meero's operation a complete up. She also almost gets beaten to death during the riot when she gets separated from her escort. It's only thanks to Cyril Karn that she survives at all. You know, Cyril Karn and Dedra Meero, they belong together, right? They're just right together. You know, Cyril is obsessed with law and order. His focus on pursuing Cassian Andor is very similar to Dedra Meero and drives him throughout the entire first season. And like Dedra, he's kind of awkward in social settings. And also, like Dedra, Cyril's focus on pursuing Cassian Andor gets him into a lot of trouble. On Ferrix as well. Except Cyril's big mistake, the Ferrix skirmish, happens in the beginning of the season, whereas Dedra's mistake happens at the end. But since Cyril Karn ends the season saving an ISB supervisor, I would say that his future is looking very bright and going in the opposite direction of Dedra's future. I mean, in the pictures we've seen of Cyril Karn in the second season of Andor, he looks really well groomed. He has like longer hair. He seems more confident. Maybe he finally moved out of his mom's apartment. You know, I associate those changes in appearance with that. Maybe he was rewarded for his brave actions on Ferrix and given a promotion at the Bureau of Standards, or maybe he finally achieved his dream of being a lawkeeper in the Empire. Now, from what we've seen of Dedra, she still is in the ISB, which in many ways is worse than just getting fired, because remember, Major Partagaz likes Dedra and sees something special in her, and will want to keep her around even though she's messed up so badly. The Empire is ruthless, and individuals like Partagaz love pitting, you know, his underlings, his most talented pupils against each other to see who will rise to the top. Again, very Sith-like. Supervisor Blevin will have been vindicated by Dedra Meero's failure and see his stock rise in the ISB. He might even have control of his old sector back. Dedra Meero, on the other hand, will struggle to deal with her fall from grace. As mentioned, her social and political abilities are quite limited, as she is mostly just focused on the job. And up until now, she's been able to focus on the job because she hasn't messed up politically. But now that she has, she'll probably find herself stripped of the ability to actually do her job, which of course will really frustrate her. And I think at one point she'll most likely take matters into her own hands, not unlike what Cyril Karn did in the first season, right? I mean, these two are the same. They're the same people. They're just going through things in reverse order. One is destroying herself, whereas the other one is rising up. My sense is that Dedra Meero, whose investigation skills are profound, combined with her tendency to ignore the rules or be creative with the rules in order to get what she wants, will have figured out Luthen Rael's identity, or at least Clara, his assistant's identity. This is why we have this scene of her in the antique store. It's very possible that Dedra and Cyril are still working together, even though their stock are going in different directions. I think Cyril Karn still has feelings for Dedra, and even though Dedra seems to be repulsed by the idea of being with Cyril, she'll use any help she can get at this point. She's desperate. But again, I think Dedra is unaware of the larger threats that she faces by cornering someone as dangerous as Luthen Rael, right? He's not going to go down without a fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he has like a proton bomb buried beneath his antique store, right? That's the kind of thing you would do. And so the question is, will Dedra Meero bring Luthen Rael in? Or will she mess up really badly and you know, because of that mess up, conceal the origins of the rebellion, and Luthen Rael will go out clean. Maybe she'll even be a golem-like character, where her obsession over this investigation leads to destroying the very thing that she's trying to see happen, which is, you know, bring justice to these people. Where Cyril Karn sits in this, I don't know. They could be helping each other. Maybe at the last moment they rekindle, or not rekindle, or they find love. I have no idea. The only question I have left is what happens with Cyril Karn. Does he help Dedra Meero at the very end? Does he betray her? You know, like, there are a lot of moving parts here that are set up to go in any direction, right? Like, I kind of want to go back and watch all the old Cyril and Dedra scenes and just see if I can pick up any further clues. But anyway, guys, that's as far as my speculation goes. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but I know Dedra will play a huge role somehow in either revealing the rebellion or getting really close to revealing the rebellion and then just helping the rebellion conceal their nature. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. I'll see you next time.